In 1956, Father Noiret and Jacques were just going about their usual tasks at their church in Tarascon, France. As they were checking out some commotion, something bizarre happened. Noiret suddenly got lifted into the air, caught on fire, and sadly, he ended up burning to death. Poor Jacques was absolutely terrified and ran away from the horrifying scene. If you're a fan of spine-tingling horror and thrilling suspense, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for the latest on The Nun II, the 2023 horror thriller that's got everyone talking. And of course, don't skip a beat by turning on those notifications. After what went down at St. Cartha's Monastery, Sister Irene finds herself doing her thing in a convent over in Italy. As for Maurice, he's holding down a gig at a boarding school out in France. Interestingly enough, he struck up a friendship with a young Irish student named Sophie, as well as her teacher and mom, Kate. Irene gets this vision where Maurice is basically pleading for her help. Next thing you know, the cardinal sends her off to check out a bunch of deaths happening all over Europe. They're blaming it on this demon Valak, and Irene's got some history with that demon. So she hits the road to Tarascon, and she's got Sister Deborah tagging along. Deborah's this young novice, and she's got a tough time wrapping her head around miracles, like how they say Christ is really in that Eucharist thing. Now, there's this delivery girl who happens to catch Valak having a chat with Maurice, and things take a dark turn. Valak ends up offing her. In some parts of the story, they show this St. Lucy painting by Beccafumi. As for Irene, when she's in Tarascon, Valak starts giving her the creeps big time, and she has this weird vision that's messing with her. Deborah spills the beans to Irene, saying she got Noiret's rosary from Jacques. Over at the school, Sophie's having a rough time. Some mean kids are giving her a hard time, even locking her up in that old chapel they don't use anymore. The school bully decides to be a know-it-all and points out this goat on the mosaic window. According to them, when the sun shines through, it's supposed to make the goat's eyes turn all creepy red like the devil's. Then, one night, the headmistress runs into Maurice, who's clearly been taken over by Valak, and that encounter doesn't end well. Valak ends up offing her. So Irene and Deborah make their way over to the Palais des Papes and hook up with a librarian dude. He starts dropping some knowledge and tells them that Valak used to be this angel who got the boot from God. Oh, and that emblem on Noiret's rosary? It's the family crest of this St. Lucy chick who got martyred by some pagan. Crazy part is, they tried to set her on fire, but she didn't burn. And they even gouged out her eyes, but her family managed to get them back somehow. Weird, right? The librarian starts connecting the dots and figures that the demon is on a rampage because it's after some super important relic, which last they heard, was stashed away in this old monastery-turned-winery. And guess what? That winery later turned into the boarding school where all this craziness is going down. So things heat up at the school, and Irene and Deborah find themselves in a showdown with the completely possessed Maurice. Sophie joins the party and takes them to the chapel, where she shows them that mosaic goat. They whip out a flashlight and make its eyes go all red and creepy. Turns out, that red light is like a laser pointer, and it's pointing to where they buried St. Lucy's eyes. Irene digs up the relic, and then things get even crazier. The mosaic goat suddenly goes from art to real-life demon mode, so the goat from the mosaic goes on the offensive and starts terrorizing the students. Meanwhile, Maurice goes after Irene, Sophie makes a run for it, and the whole bell tower situation goes downhill fast, collapsing. In the midst of all this chaos, Deborah has a change of heart and confesses to Irene that she's got faith now. Irene tries to use the relic against Maurice, but he snatches it away, and bam, Valak pops up. Just like what happened to Father Noiret, Valak does his thing, lifting Irene up and setting her on fire. Tough times. Here's where things take a twist. Irene doesn't go up in flames like she's supposed to. She figures out she's actually a descendant of St. Lucy, and that gives her the same kind of power linked to that relic. So Irene and Deborah get to praying, using those words of institution they use in Christian Eucharist celebrations. And wouldn't you know it, their faith turns those old wine barrels in the room into the blood of Christ. Belief can be pretty powerful, it seems. So as that blood soaks Valak, the demon gets sent packing straight back to hell. Fast forward to the next morning, Irene catches up with Maurice. He seems all cured and good to go. But here's the kicker. Irene starts feeling a bit worried as she watches him heading off with Sophie and Kate. If The Nun II left you trembling with fear and craving more horror thrills, let us know by giving that like button a good smash. Stay tuned for more heart-pounding content, spine-chilling movie reviews, and everything related to the 2023 horror thriller sensation, The Nun II. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep the scares coming.